Have you ever wondered why the hair on your head can grow all the way down to your waist, but your eyebrows just stop? Why do some people start losing their hair by 30, while others set Guinness World Records with a 16-foot braid? Today, we are going deep under the skin to find out whether your hair has a built-in timer, whether you can actually outsmart your genetics, and why rapid growth shampoos are mostly just clever marketing. Let's dive in. To understand how this works, we need to head down to the basement of your skin. Think of a hair follicle as a high-tech 3D printer buried in your scalp. At the very bottom is the hair bulb. It is a biological reactor where matrix cells live. These are some of the fastest dividing cells in your entire body. They multiply at lightning speed, transforming into specialized cells called trichocytes and packing themselves with keratin, the same protein found in rhino horns and horse hooves. Essentially, your hair is a thin, flexible strand of armor being pushed out into the world. But every printer needs a director. And yours is a cell called the fibroblast. This cell is the architect. It tells the matrix cells what shape, thickness, and color the hair should be. That is why hair transplant surgeons usually take follicles from the back of the head and move them to the front. The follicle remembers its original programming. Sometimes doctors get experimental. For example, to give someone very thick eyelashes, they might transplant follicles from the scalp. It looks amazing, but there is a catch. Those eyelashes still think they are head hair. You would literally have to trim your lashes with scissors every week just to keep them from blocking your vision. So here is the big question. Why are we not all real-life Rapunzels? It turns out that every follicle has a built-in countdown clock. Scientists still are not completely sure how cells measure time, but one fact is clear. The average scalp hair lives for about 5 to 7 years. This period is called the anagen phase. When the timer runs out, the follicle stops the process. The hair stops receiving nutrients, detaches, and falls out. That is the natural cycle you see on your hairbrush every morning. Now, let's do the math. Hair grows at about 6 inches or 15 centimeters per year. If your personal timer is set to 7 years, then your biological limit is a little over 3 feet, or about 1 meter. No matter how many serums or home remedies you try, you're not getting past that limit if your genetics have already said enough. So how did the Chinese record holder Xi Jinping grow hair longer than 17 feet? That is an extremely rare genetic quirk. Hair follicles simply stayed in the growth phase for much longer and kept going for decades. But for most of us, nature has already set a limit. So what happens when the factory starts breaking down? Aging is basically the story of your hair factory running out of resources. Usually, a color goes first. Each follicle has a tiny and limited supply of pigment-producing stem cells called melanocytes. There are only a few of them. Once they run out, the color cartridge is empty, and the factory switches to producing colorless or gray hair. For many people, this happens early. And yes, that is also written into your DNA. Hair loss is even more dramatic. When the follicle runs out of epithelial stem cells, it begins to degrade and physically shrink. With each new cycle, the hair comes out thinner, shorter, and more transparent until production stops completely. For men, one of the main factors is testosterone, or more specifically its byproduct, DHT. It acts like a system glitch, disrupting the signals that the fibroblast sends to the cells. The commands no longer reach the workers, and the follicle gradually falls asleep. And finally, an important reality check for anyone who believes marketing promises. Can you actually speed up hair growth? The scientific answer for now is no. Your body is already operating close to its maximum biological capacity. Trying to force hair to grow faster is like overclocking an old processor that is already overheating. Yes, there are treatments that can wake up dormant follicles or reduce the influence of hormones. But there is no real turbo mode in nature. Your hair is not just an accessory. It is a complex biological system that reflects your health, nutrition, and age. And honestly, if your hair has not reached 17 feet, that may actually be a good thing. At least you do not need hours of effort and several people just to wash it. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments what part of the human machine we should explore next. Stay curious.